welcome back to the Track Limits podcast presented by Formula Addict. We are here in Glasgow. I'm your host, Fevin, and my co-host, Swish.
Indeed. We're very excited. We're here in
Glasgow.
Thank God you said it. I can't pronounce that city, but we're here in Scotland.
In Scotland.
The lovely, lovely country of Scotland. And we have an incredible guest, a professional racing driver, somebody who has a ton of racing experience that I think they're going to be able to share with us over the next 40 minutes. An individual as well who comes from a racing family. You might know his dad, James Hunt. He's on currently right now the mission to win the 24-hour Le Mans by 2026, which actually would be incredible if he did it because it would be the 50th anniversary of his dad's win at Le Mans. Please welcome Freddie Hunt.
Thank you, guys.
Woo!
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you coming down.
No, my pleasure. I think I haven't come nearly as far as you have. So
Yeah, you were saying an hour and a half.
yeah, no, it's just down the road in Scotland.
Yeah, everything's a drive. Yeah. My in-laws are in the countryside in Ireland, and for them to get anywhere close to a town, it's about 20 to 30-minute drive, and that's just a village, not even a town. It's very, very. It's a different life on the farm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And are you on? Or do you live on the farm?
I do. Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't know that about that.
I mean, I wouldn't. It is a farm, I suppose, technically, but it's not a commercial farm. It used to be.
Yeah.
But I just bought the farmhouse with it. It's got a couple of small paddocks, and I just rear my own food for myself.
For you.
But well, Freddie, again, thank you again for coming down. And a kind of first question right away. In 2022, you signed a 5-year deal, right, with Ryder Engineering. You're driving for them. How has that experience been so far? You know, you're already 2 years in, a year and a half in, and you're going to Bahrain soon. How's that experience been so far?
Yeah, year before last, 2022 was a fantastic year. It was, first year signing with a new team. We hadn't had any. Well, they hadn't had any previous experience with a prototype, the Le Mans car. They've been a very successful GT team over the years. So I think we had a pretty good season. We beat everyone but one. We came second in the championship, and we won the last race of the season. I think had we had some preseason testing, we had 3 days preseason testing which were cancelled, both 2 to snow and 1 to COVID. So we turned up to the first team with a car which we had no idea how to set up, and it was undrivable. Second race, we crossed the line in 4th, but then had a penalty because we pitted too early, so scored no points there either. But I think had we had some decent finishes there, we would have had a good chance of winning the championship. But the main problem with motorsport, as some people know, and everyone within the sport knows, is money. It costs a hell of a lot to run it, and the team were funding that season, and it was an investment for them, with the hope that, that they would be successful, and we would then be able to generate some sponsorship after that. But unfortunately, we've found no sponsors, or no significant sponsors anyway. No other drivers, which baffles me slightly, considering the team's prestige and our success. But they didn't manage to sign any other drivers with budget for last season, 2023, apart from one race we did. So it's all gone downhill pretty quickly since then. Sort of went uphill very fast and then went downhill equally as fast, which is a bit of a shame, really. So the drive, I mean the hunt for Le Mans 2026 is looking more and more elusive, I'm afraid to say. But still battling on, and of course still looking for sponsors. But I've been in this game for quite a while now, and more often than not, we don't find the sponsors, and I've done multiple seasons on them with no drivers at all, or just a one-off club race here or there.
Right. So
I'm kind of back to sort of square one as it is financially for motorsport, which is a real shame.
Yeah.
However, life is it's not all motorsport. I have many other interests in life. And recently we started, well, not actually that recently, but recently we've launched a new fashion brand.
Oh, cool.
So that's starting to take more of more of my mental energy from that. You know, I'm still physically fit and prepared for racing, maintain a racing license, and keeping an eye out for sponsors, of course. But you know, I'm 36 now. I've been in this game for 17 years. You know, if you keep throwing a tennis ball at a brick wall and it doesn't go through, the harder you throw it, it doesn't mean it's going to go through. So, yeah, that's why I'm having to start to look elsewhere, how to generate some funds.
Right.
Well, tell us a little bit about your fashion line. I'm really intrigued.
Well, so wildlife is sort of my main passion. Well, it has been since I was a small boy, and sustainability, obviously, in this modern day and age, is absolutely crucial. So we're looking to combine the two. It's a luxury brand. I'm actually wearing one of the shirts, although we'll have to wait for the heating to warm up a bit, and I can take my jacket off and show you. It's a concept that a friend of mine I raced with, Lee Keshev, we raced together back in 2014. And I'll give him the credit. He initially came up with the idea of making a fashion brand together. And right in those days, wasn't even thinking about fashion at all.
Yeah.
But then as we sort of over the next couple of years, it sort of spawned and grew a bit, and then the last several years we've been putting a lot of work into R&D, and now we have products available, and so it's we launched last year.
Yeah.
So it's going well.
Brilliant.
Sorry, I get confused. 2022 we technically launched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is it called? I'm so this is like the other side of me. I obviously much like you have your interest in motorsport. I have an interest in motorsport, but fashion is also another interest of mine. So I'm so curious. What is the brand called? What who's it catering to? Who's your audience?
LK Hunt.
Okay.
So ELKAY Hunt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Lee Keshev is his name.
Yeah.
So we thought LK Hunt.
Yeah.
So it's got a nice ring to it, we thought.
Yeah.
It's quite high end stuff. It's sort of low volume, high end stuff, and it's very bespoke. If you want something completely made uniquely, you can. We will have larger scale productions, but still not huge scale. Like the shirts we'll be making. Well, again, I'll show you once it's warmed up a bit.
Yeah.
Obviously we'll be doing more of those, but the jackets, which I did bring one, those are sort of very unique to the individual person. We might choose to make 10 or 20 of a certain piece, but we wouldn't do any more than that. And it's all hand embroidered, handcrafted stuff, and it's pretty nice, I think. But the wildlife you'll see in the jacket, where my interests have influenced the brand.
Yeah. Okay. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I mean, I definitely want a pair now. Yeah.
I mean, it's limited edition, only 10, 20. I don't know.
All right. Maybe we could grab one. Push it hard.
Yeah.
No, that's a no. I got shut down.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, Freddie. You mentioned the idea of fundraising being such a pivotal part for many drivers, right? And,
yes.
And it's a little bit, sometimes I feel, out of your control as well, right? The fact of like sponsorship, obviously you can do your most to try to drive sponsorship, but if you're part of a bigger team, it's also their obligation to do that. Were there times where you maybe felt, this is a little bit out of my control, like what's happening? Like, were you trying to motivate the team during that period to go out and look for sponsors and try to get that job done?
Yes, I think we're all motivating each other really, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who brings the money, as long as it's brought and it's all done kosher and above board, then it doesn't matter. But I'm not really sure what to say about it. I mean, it is. I think one of the fundamentals of it, unless you're at the top level of motorsports, sort of Formula One or NASCAR that has a huge following, then how can you really generate a good return for the sponsors? I mean, I think the majority of young drivers coming up are privately funded.
Yeah.
Although they might have plenty of stickers on their cars, that'll probably be just daddy's putting 80% and his mates are putting in 20% from their other companies maybe, or daddy is a CEO of a company or as a marketing director. But then you do get, obviously there are some deals that do work generally commercially, particularly now with social media. If the athlete has a very large following, then that's worth money, of course. What was I going to say next? Lost my train of thought now.
I guess I think you were talking about the fundamentals of just like the different aspects of where the sponsorship money or how the sponsorship money can come from. And though I think you were trying to get to, though there are a lot of stickers, there are a lot of sponsors, the commercial value has to be there, I'm assuming, for a team that maybe doesn't have as much of a following, or drivers that have a big, I guess, social presence that's not in the top level, like F1 or NASCAR, Indy, whoever.
Exactly.
With many millions of eyeballs and I guess impressions and for different brands.
And one would think driving in Le Mans, that's sort of up there, but it still doesn't have the following anywhere near that Formula One does, or NASCAR, near the exposure. But the money is not hundreds of millions, but it's still to be competitive with a really good team. You're looking at in an LMP2 car. This is even the top level. This is LMP2. I think it was around 4 million. To run the car for the season for all three drivers. Now you can just arrive with your money, the third of the budget. But then you're stuck with two drivers that they might have money, but they might not have any speed. So really, if you want to win, you need to raise all the money yourself, so you can handpick your teammates. And ideally pay them so to keep them motivated, and then actually you can have an element of control over them if you're their employer. You have to make sure they are going to the gym and doing everything they're supposed to be doing. Rather than if you've got three drivers that are all sort of separate entities with their own budgets, and it can lead to discomfort within the team, put it that way.
And imagine 2026 rolled around tomorrow, and imagine you were able to secure that 4 million. Who would be those two other teammates that you'd say, I'd like you on my team?
Depends who's available, really. But I mean, Lawrence Hur, I've already had spoken to him. I drove against him last season, and he was just mustard. He really was. And I think he still is. I think he drove LMP2 last year in Le Mans. I think his team got pole position. I don't know if it was him that did the quali lap, but he's really quick, and he's a nice guy as well. Second from that, there's a few others, but they're all quite sought after, the top ones. They're probably not cheap either.
Definitely not.
Nick Tandy, who was my first ever teammate, he would be up there, but he's all locked up with Porsche. He can't drive for anyone else. So a lot of the best ones are taken, but there are also a lot of really talented drivers out there that don't have any money, but because they don't have any money, they're not in the car too often, and one doesn't get to see them too often. So it's trying to find them. And speed is one thing, but then reliability and consistency, and particularly in endurance racing, that's it's equally as important.
Absolutely. And I guess in this period of time, when there's a little bit of uncertainty in terms of the road to 2026, how are you staying, I guess, within the sport, like, and keeping your skills sharp? And are you doing any other kind of championships or races or anything in the plan?
Not really, actually. I would love to. Goodwood, I would. Hopefully, we'll be driving at the Revival this year.
Nice.
And no doubt I'll get invited for. I normally do get invited for one or two races. So I'm sure something will happen.
Yeah. That's great. And talk to us about endurance racing. Where does the passion for that come from? Was that always something that growing up you were like, that's the type of, racing that I want to do? And I know a lot of drivers are moving into WEC, for example, because of how limited the spots are in an F1 or an F2, or even, you look at other series like IndyCar, those other series are becoming popular because of how limited those spots in Formula racing are. But like, where does that passion for endurance racing come from on your end?
Well, that sort of came by accident, really. I mean, when I started racing, my goal was Formula One. And after 3 seasons, I stopped because I had a mental issue. I couldn't deliver under pressure, which was it was a nasty snowball effect because it was getting worse and worse and worse. And I knew I was quick in testing. You know, I knew behind closed doors, no one watching. I was quick, a lot quicker than I should have been from my experience. But then I couldn't deliver under pressure, so I stopped racing. And then when I came back to it, not long after, I did my first endurance race in a GT4, and I think it was just the fact that you had more time in the car. I managed to get into a groove. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to analyze my own psychology on it. And I just found sort of less pressure on me. And I thought, well, actually, the chance of being into Formula One is forget it now. I'm too old, no money. So what's the next best thing, and what's potentially realistic? So Le Mans, I thought, is the next best thing. And I hadn't even driven a prototype at that time. And then when I first drove a prototype in an LMP3 car, I was like, wow, this feels like a single-seater. Yeah. Because unfortunately, sorry to all GT lovers, but compared to a single-seater, it's like driving a bus.
Yeah. You're like, this is quick.
Yeah. But that's wild. I mean, I can only imagine, you know, when you kind of realize that, oh my God, I can't like perform under pressure. It honestly kind of feels heartbreaking too, because like you were saying, behind closed doors, you're quick. You know you're quick, right? So how did you kind of go through, even when you took a break, how did you go through the moment where you were like, I'm ready to get back into racing? What kind of clicked for you during that break?
I was living in Argentina, and I was invited to watch a race in the city. They had is it TC2000, I think, or Super TC2000. And just went along to watch, and the racing bug bit again. I thought about it, and I'd grown up a lot since then, mentally. I'd matured a lot, so I thought, well, maybe I can give it a go, and I did. And I tried to look for sponsors in Argentina, but with no luck. They weren't interested in English drivers, regardless of what your surname is, or how quick you are, apparently. So I moved back to Europe, and that's when so that was 2014. And actually the first few races I did were in single seaters, just by chance, just by opportunity. And then I think it was 2015, the first race in a GT car, and then I think it was 2016. We did Qatar, the 24 hours Qatar, and we won that race in GT4, which was great. And then, was it 2017? Yes, 2017, I had my first drive in an LMP3 car. Estoril was a 6-hour race.
Yeah.
And we came second in class and 5th or 6th overall. So that was pretty encouraging, and I was quick, and so it sort of went from there, really.
That's great. And when you look at somebody, let's even talk about F1 right now. If you were to point to someone and say, that's somebody who can deal really well under pressure, and that's someone that like young drivers should learn from, who would that person be?
Lewis and Max, I'd say. I mean, I think it was Christian Horner, summed up really well what Max has an exceptional ability for. Yes, he's really, really quick, but he can do all of that, completely on autopilot, his speed. So that leaves him so much time, so much brain capacity to think about everything else.
Yeah.
And be calm and collected. And we saw how he was in his first few seasons. He was a bit, he just wanted to unleash his speed and go for the jugular every time. Now he's realised that's not necessarily the best approach at every time. He's calmed down. That's where Lewis is. He kind of had that more so from the beginning. Yes, your first season, he was quick. He came second in the championship.
Second.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. But he matured really fast. Now Max is maturing as well, or has matured, I'd say. They're both the elites out there. Obviously Alonso, we can't forget about him.
Yeah.
And he's probably but he's been in it for so long now. He's just sort of, it's just easy. I think he probably finds driving a Formula One car easier than jogging.
He's doing it for fun.
Yeah.
It's wild when you look at all those photos of Alonso, and when you look at like some of the rookies or even just some of the younger drivers, and you see all their childhood photos with Alonso, and you're like, this guy has not aged at all.
I don't think he takes himself too seriously.
No.
He's just there, not stressed, not bothered.
Yeah.
Quick, and then just talking about the people that I guess like Max and Lewis, but were there folks outside of your dad who you looked up to or had as a mentor throughout your career?
No, actually,
No.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people I looked up to,
Yeah.
but I wasn't in touch with any as a mentor. I mean, well, my uncle, when I first started, my father's little brother,
Yeah.
when I first started racing, but after about 18 months or so working together, families working together don't always work well together. So yeah, unfortunately, we had to sort of part company.
Yeah.
Didn't stop being family and love one another, of course,
course.
but just didn't work well together.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I mean, I've had several people helping me, a little bit here and there, but I've never had a set sort of mentor or anyone, one individual which I sort of, really,
Emulated.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then final question for Q1. I think you raced in the MRF challenge. You did that
Yes.
a few races. I think Qatar, India, Dubai. A few of
Yes.
those races. You had the opportunity to race against Nikki Lauda's son, Matthias.
Yep.
You know, how was that experience? That must have been pretty surreal, given the rivalry your father's had.
That was good. Yeah, it was great. I mean, however, I was very rusty. That was my first season back.
Yeah.
Matthias was driving a fair bit at the time, although he hadn't been in a single seater for a while. But also, my head wasn't great. Unfortunately, my mother died not long before the season started, and if I'm honest, I was unfit. I was out of shape, probably drinking too much,
Yeah.
and I wasn't prepared at all. So I was on the back foot. I never really seemed to gel with the car at all, apart from once.
Yeah.
I mean, I was always qualifying 10th or 8th, or maybe it was my best. It was pretty poor performance. And I remember chatting with Mike, my engineer, and this was in Qatar. And for the last race, it was 4 races per weekend. We made so many setup changes, and he said, "Look, I literally just don't know what to do anymore. I'm just going to try something really random. I'll put the Bahrain setup on and see what happens." And I think I went from I made up, I don't know how many places in the first 2 laps or something, a purple lap, and I was like, this is great. But my mind I got too overexcited and I crashed.
Oh no. Like, oh, it's really good. Go.
I mean, I was nailing it. I mean, if I continued at that pace and without incident, I could have won the race.
Right.
I was really flying, and the car, it felt like I had double tires. The car just suddenly had loads of grip.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I got overexcited and put on the wall.
Yeah.
Not this time wasn't the pressure, it was the overexcitement.
It was exactly the opposite end of the
Complete
spectrum.
opposite.
That's another thing about motorsport. It's such a mental game, and one must be so chilled in their head. Emotions can't come into it, and as soon as they do, then that's when drivers start making mistakes. Either they're overconfident or underconfident, and you've got to find a sweet spot and somehow stay in that sweet spot. But I think it's the same for a lot of sports, if not all.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that mental fitness something? And this is, sorry, I know I said the last question. I lied. But
I lied.
But is that mental fitness taught? Can you teach it, or are you naturally born with it? I'm always curious whenever I speak to athletes about that.
I think one can certainly learn it, but also others are more naturally gifted at it.
Yeah.
Some people their emotional sort of range is much less than others. Unfortunately, my emotions are quite high when I'm when I'm really happy. I can burst into tears of joy just like that. Where not many people. I haven't seen many men doing that, for example. So yeah, I can, and if the day isn't going well, if the testing's not going well, I'm not quick enough, then I can easily slump down into feeling that one self-esteem goes, and then if your self-esteem goes, your confidence goes, and then it's just if you can't figure out how to regain it, you're screwed.
Yeah, sometimes that's why we have so much, I guess, sympathy, or just we give a lot of grace to some of the rookies that come into in their rookie year, whichever series, whichever championship. It's an immense amount of pressure, and often there's a lot of obviously, especially now on social media, it can be very cruel, and when we talk about any of the rookies, we give.
Cut them slack.
No,
Yeah.
I'm the same. I defend them
Yeah.
vigorously with when sort of sitting there watching the Grand Prix with friends, and they're saying, "Oh, that guy's crap. He's useless. Get rid of him." And you have no idea actually how quick he is, but he's just not quite in the right mind frame right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the pressure. I mean, imagine driving Formula One. The pressure would be just astonishing.
Yeah.
You make a couple of little mistakes if you're a rookie, and you're gone.
You're binned.
Yeah. All right.
Purple? Is that a purple?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
I mean,
Sorry, purple?
Freddie's like, what?
We forgot to explain this at the beginning.
Every
of the
section,
episode.
we're going to give you a color basically to just indicate if you did, a great job or were you a little bit too slow. And I think we gave you a purple in Q1.
Purple sector. Let's go.
Hopefully it isn't like Qatar though, where you crash a little bit, after 20, 30 minutes, maybe too soon.
Okay, we shouldn't have said purple. It's probably going to go pear-shaped from now on.
Should've started off.
Maybe green. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Q2 coming up very shortly. Welcome back to the Track Limits podcast. We're here with Freddie Hunt. Freddie, diving right into Q2. I'm curious, if you were to look back at Freddie 10 years ago, what do you feel like, you've changed? What do you feel like if you looked back, you would see as core differences or things that perhaps you've even improved on from like the last 10 years?
I think 10 years, where was I 10 years ago now? I would have been
2014.
2014, in February 2014, I would have just came back to the UK from Argentina. Mum had cancer at the time. She died. It will be 10 years this September. She died.
Right.
That's right. No. I'm just. I don't.
Placing yourself.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think
like
to
a
where
therapy session.
I was sort of, at that time. Yeah, I've come a long way from that. Self-discipline, I think, is what that's what I lacked a lot when I was younger, and that's what that's probably one of my biggest improvements from then until now, I think. And I actually moved to Mallorca during the summer of 2014 because I found myself going up to Manchester quite a lot. It's a long, boring story, but the point is to get from Sussex, where I was living at the time, to Manchester, I could actually get from Palma to Manchester faster and cheaper. So I thought, sod it, let's just go there. so I moved to Palma for the summer. Then obviously Mum got pretty sick, so I came back. But then racing, all the time I was looking for sponsors, and then things started to happen. The MRF Championship came up, and so went on from there. But then Mum died, and it all went pear shaped. I remember actually how fit I was in Mallorca. I remember on the first day, I tried to swim out to an island. It was about 400 meters off the coast. I nearly drowned about quarter of the way out, but within a week or two I was doing laps of the island. So the fitness training was going really well, and I was feeling sort of really pumped, and her memory just popped in. I had no idea my mother was going to die. She had cancer for 2 or 3 years, but I was maybe false hopes, but I was under the impression that she wasn't going to die. And then when she did, when she suddenly got really ill, it took me by surprise and really knocked me off. Yeah, I didn't have my guard up at all. So I was sucker punched by my own naivety, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that was all. It's quite a bit of a shit year, really, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
There's no other way to sum it up. But
self-discipline is kudos to you, though. That's definitely, a big trait that I know people love, being able to look back on like their younger self and feel like they've improved on. And, I know, by the way, even just seeing kind of some of the past interviews that you've given, I know you've talked about, how when you were coming up the ranks, that was something that you were constantly thinking about. I think you were on the Pit Stop podcast as well, and you shared a couple of stories of you when you were younger and some of the kind of experiences, bad and good, that taught you a lot to be able to get to where you are. So kudos on that.
Thank
Very
you.
inspiring.
Yep, very. And just, I guess, kind of taking a different direction, talking about the movie Rush. Obviously, the name. I guess I've obviously watched it. Like, I'm just curious, what are your opinions on it, and was that an accurate portrayal?
No, is a short answer.
No.
In my opinion, no. In one man's opinion, yes. And I'm not going to mention that man's name, but I was a bit upset and surprised and upset that Chris Hemsworth never approached the family to learn about my father, about his characteristics, his mannerisms, and everything. Turns out he did actually do some research, but that person I don't think held my father into very high regard, and said, so James was just a happy-go-lucky guy, and it wasn't very hardworking, but that's the absolute that's crap. Dad was extremely hardworking. He didn't have a penny to start with. He worked his ass off to build his first racing car, which he knew nothing about, but he had to learn, even though he had no interest in the actual mechanics of cars, but he had to learn by default, so he did. So he worked really hard. He wasn't cocky and arrogant. He didn't punch people. He didn't have premeditated anger like they suggest in the movie. Dad did punch a few people, and that's on camera, and that's fine.
Right. Yeah.
But that was, in the heat of battle, as it were, when one's revved up driving a 1970s Formula One car.
Yeah.
But no, so I just think they didn't do an accurate portrayal of Dad. They did miss out some very important, I think, information in the movie. They added bits in. And Ron Howard's response when I asked him about this was, well, the truth was too awesome, no one would believe it. So I just thought it was such a pathetic excuse. So I wasn't very happy. I mean, I was happy with the movie on the whole. It's, people enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
And Dad wasn't made out to be a complete mug or anything like that. So, but however, if anyone, youngsters people of my generation, our generation, don't know my dad, they might think he's that basically Thor, because that's how Hemsworth came across, which he wasn't at all. But we are trying to put that straight.
Right.
We are working on the very early stages of pre-production of a documentary about my father, which I will be a co-producer of.
Nice.
I don't know if it's going to get off the ground yet. We have some investors that are showing some interest, which is exciting. But we've got to gather material. It's all about content, isn't it, and how much out there that people haven't seen. But we'd like to actually show more of my father's, the inside of my father, not just the motorsport and the partying, because everyone's heard about the partying, the drinking, the women, and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But there was so much more to him than that. He was a very deep person, and we want to show that.
What is one thing I would say, maybe if you can think of that the movie got wrong? Or specific.
The main thing was his character. I mean, Dad was cheeky and naughty, but he was sort of humble and innocent, so he could get away with it, and people liked him for it. Whereas Hemsworth was just cocky and arrogant, just the big, the big I am. And then particularly the contrast between Hemsworth's performance and Daniel Bruhl's performance, who did a masterpiece. And he was a real professional. He spent 2 weeks living with Nikki to learn his mannerisms, and he nailed it. He's a really, really talented actor. I think up there with the best.
Agreed.
Which is a shame. So because he just completely outplayed Hemsworth in my opinion.
And when it comes to the documentary that you guys are co-producing, I'm curious, when you were going through some of the moments that you guys want to showcase, if you could be a fly on the wall for a moment in your dad's career, even just on the racing side. Is there a moment that you were like, I'd love to be in the stands when he won that race or that moment happened?
Well, I suppose the race that stands out above all is the 1976 Grand Prix, which he won bloody fair and square.
Yeah.
Completely fair and square. So, yeah, I think that one would be it. Other fly on the wall moments, I think when he was young, like even Formula Ford, when he was working on his own car, I can just imagine him trying to figure this thing out, effing and blinding, reading books. It's not like you can Google it. Like you didn't have
No.
Googling these days.
We
Trying to
would
figure out how to set this car up.
Yeah.
That would have been hilarious to watch.
We have it so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been so different.
Brilliant. And then how do you envision, I'm curious, in terms of your kind of participation in motorsport, have you ever envisioned, beyond even being a driver, potentially being in motorsport in another way? Whether it's kind of even being part of a team, coaching, stuff like that. Have you thought about potentially taking, a role in a team beyond just being a driver?
No. The answer, no, life's too short. I've got too many other things that, I like driving cars. I'm not a petrol head.
Yeah.
I'm not really a car man at all. I like driving them.
Yeah.
And I've just about got the basics understanding of race car setup, which I've learned.
Right.
Not in a Formula One car, but in an LMP3, I can feel roughly what the car's doing and relay the information to the engineer. And actually, in 2022, that I proved that a lot of the successful setup changes we made wasn't actually me saying to the engineer it's oversteering here, understeering there. I said, why don't we try this spring or that damper change or whatever? And he said, I think that could work. Let's do it. And it worked. So I know enough about them. Obviously, the more you know, the better. But no, I'm not a petrol head. So I'm not. I'm really enjoying being on my farm.
Right.
Well, speaking of your farm, and I think you were mentioned just your interest in wildlife in general. How has that? You've started your fashion line. You said you brought some stuff. We want to see it, but obviously, what's next moving on or outside of motorsport for you and this fashion line?
That is the main focus of the fashion brand now. And the farm that I bought it was derelict for 10 years, empty for 10 years, so almost derelict. It's taken me 3 years to 98% finish renovating the house itself. The interior, I've still got gutters to fix, walls to repoint and paint, and basically there's years of work. Unless I suddenly have a couple of million in my pocket and pay someone else to do it.
Yeah, you're doing it yourself.
And I've got 4 barns that I want to restore and probably convert a couple of them.
Yeah.
So there's a hell of a lot of work still to be done. It's been an ongoing project, plenty to keep me occupied for a while.
Right. Well, that is Q2. I think he's into Q3.
Absolutely
into Q3. Rapid fire round with Freddie coming up soon. Welcome back to the Track Limits podcast. Freddie, you're holding something.
Yes, this is the one of the jackets I was telling you about for our new brand.
Yeah.
Oh
my!
Without
It's okay.
upsetting the mic.
That is
so cool.
Epic.
This is almost finished product. I mean, it is a finished product, but it's a prototype. We're not going to be. This one isn't for sale.
The
hand as you can see, I'll pass it around to you. It's all hand stitched, so it's quite a lot of work involved.
Yeah.
That's
wow. How long does that take, by the way, really quickly? How does that? 4 days, 5 days, 3 months? How long?
Depends how hard we whip them.
Yeah.
Of course I'm joking.
That's so cool.
No, it's a lot of hours. A lot of hours goes into each one.
Yeah.
But it's been a wonderful experience. I mean, I don't think there's no silk in that one, but another jacket we're making in the process at the moment is silk, and the worms themselves, the silkworms. So normally in mass production silk, the worms get killed.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to be put into butterfly. But we're doing it the other way around. We want them to. So it's sustainable in that way. Also, everything, there's no synthetic products in there at all. So everything will be biodegradable. So if and when it eventually gets discarded, gets thrown in a landfill, it'll just biodegrade.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to get into the rapid fire round. Freddie, we'd love for your answers to be rapid, full of fire. You ready?
Okay.
Here we go. Question 1. Out of any track, and specifically for endurance racing or even for
Le Mans.
formula racing, which track would you remove?
Oh, remove? Not Le Mans.
Not Le Mans.
Oh, crikey. Which ones have I really didn't like? Paul Ricard was pretty dull.
Okay.
Yeah.
Paul Ricard.
Yep. What piece of racing memorabilia would you like to own, or are you currently proud of owning?
Father's helmet.
Beautiful.
The greatest driver of all time, in your opinion?
I think it could be Max.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
think it could be.
All right. Do you sim race at all?
Very badly.
Very badly. Fair enough.
Just can't feel the car underneath me.
Yeah.
No.
If you had to choose another sport to be a professional in, what sport would it be?
Polo.
Oh, love that.
Amazing. Most unpopular opinion you have?
Most unpopular opinion.
It could be about anything and everything. It doesn't have to be motorsport.
I've got a lot of them, but I'm not going to share them all here, am I?
Pick the one that the least controversial or the most. I don't know. You choose.
If one doesn't have the courage to kill an animal and skin it and butcher it themselves, they don't deserve to eat meat.
Wow. Okay. Valid. Most embarrassing moments you've had in a race weekend?
Most embarrassing moment, it's probably, I don't know, just multiple crashes. It's just so humiliating.
Right.
You know, having crashes, which I've done quite a few of them, you know, the money's the problem,
Yeah.
and all the work with the team, but it's so humiliating.
Right.
Yeah.
If you could only have one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Beef.
Beef.
What's your favorite guilty pleasure TV show? I don't know if you watch a lot of TV, but
I don't.
okay.
I've known TV ever since I moved out of my mother's house.
Yeah.
Oh wow, good for you. If you were trapped in an elevator with Lewis Hamilton, what would you say to him?
Why Ferrari?
You know what? Good question.
No, I'm sure there's a good reason for it. I'd like to know. I don't mean it like that. So I didn't mean it with that tone of voice. I didn't mean with that tone of voice. But no. I'd love
curiosity.
I was assuming he was going to get the truth out of me. I mean, I could get the truth out of him.
Yeah.
I'd want to know what the decision.
honest answer.
What behind that decision. I mean, it's going to be exciting when he goes there.
Of course.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's honestly going to be incredible.
Yeah, the biggest and most unexpected change that I didn't see coming was not on the bingo card. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Final question. You're writing an autobiography for your life. Which of these titles best resonates with you? The Daredevil, the Dream Catcher, the Free Spirit, or the Hardest Worker?
Dreamcatcher.
Love that. Amazing. Well, that was definitely one of the quickest rapid fire rounds we've had.
That was so good.
I think that's another purple
I
there.
think it's pulled.
No crashes. No crashes.
No crashes.
You know what? I thought we were going to crash when you were overexcited and said Le Mans. And I'm like, no. Simon got the better.
Le Mans is my number one track, and it's just fantastic. You know, you got the long straights for overtaking opportunities, and then some the really fast bit. I forgot what it's called, but the really fast right kink, and then you're heavy braking into a sort of it looks like a slow quarter, but it's quite well banked, so you can actually carry quite a lot of speed into it.
Yeah.
And then you've got that really tricky, uncharacteristic, stupid little sort of first gear right, and then you got into the Porsche curves. And it's just such a track.
And the fact
It
you have to
really
do
is.
that at night as well
Yeah.
blows my mind.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming on, Freddie.
that
Really
was so
appreciate it.
good.
We're going to link your socials. Do you have socials for your clothing line yet?
We do,
Freddie
yes.
Hunt?
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
cool.
On Instagram, yep.
Instagram?
It's a very we haven't actually done any work on it yet, so
Okay.
it's
Beautiful.
very very
Yep.
new. But please do have a look.
Definitely. We'll link that, guys. Check it
But
out.
actually, the website is probably
Yeah.
better Portrayal. Actually, lkhunt.com.
Perfect. Check it out, guys. This is honestly incredible.
Yeah, it's
And
the
the fact it's
quality
all
and
custom.
detail is
Yeah.
just actually beyond.
The real.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming on, guys. If you like this episode, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.